Rabotay, let's see over here. Parashat Chukat. Ready to start? Just get to the right place. Very beautiful parasha. Here it is. Okay, Parashat Chukat. I want to start from the episode that the Torah tells us towards the end of the parasha. This is Perik Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Hey. Vaydaber ha'am be'Elohim u'b'Moshe. The nation speaks negatively about Hashem and about Moshe. Lama ha'elitunu mimitzrayim lamut bamidbar ki en lechem ve'en mayim ve'nafshenu katza b'lechem ha'kelokel. Why did you take us out of Egypt to die in the desert? There is no bread, there is no water, and we're sick already with this bread that we've been given, hakelokel, the ruined, the bread that is dangerous, really. What they were saying, she explains, the man, when you would eat it, you wouldn't need to relieve yourself afterwards. And they would just be eating, going into the body, nothing's coming out of the body. And they said that doesn't seem to be too healthy. Eventually, something's going to rot internally, spoil, become bacteria, who knows, infections, and we're going to die from it. So they called the man lechem hakelokel. HaKadosh Baruch Hu considered this to be very serious offense of Lashon Hara. And midah keneged midah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you speak Lashon Hara about the man, I'm going to bring the one who first spoke Lashon Hara and was punished to punish you. And that was the Nahash. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends snakes to punish Am Yisrael and to bite. A very dangerous, venomous snakes, Anichashim HaSerufim, to bite Am Yisrael and to poison them. Is a way of saying that just like you spoke with your mouth and caused negative damage, is Lashon Hara, you should know, is one of those things that it feels innocuous. What did I already say? I spoke between me and my friend. We were just the two of us in the same room. But the next thing you know, he spoke to the next person. And then it became a whole community. And from that community, it spread to the next community. It's no different than venom. The venom, if the snake bites in the akev, in the heel, okay, whatever the heel, how important is the heel? But then the poison travels through the bloodstream all over the body until it actually gets to organs that are questions of survival. And just like the poison can sneak in to the bloodstream of a person, so too the Lashon Hara can create tremendous damage, even though it might not seem that way from an innocent speech. So much could be destroyed and ruined. Sometimes even, I said the story once with Rav Biderman. He says over that there was a man in Tzfat, I think it's a recent story, that went crazy. I lost his mind. And he looked like he was a person, there was something different about him. He wasn't like a regular crazy person. He looked like a person that was learned, that had a history, had a past. And Biderman said that the people that were in the know explained that this man was a Ben Torah that was learning in Panovich, or prestigious yeshivot, and he had very serious difficulty in shidduchim. He was like 28 years old and he still wasn't married. And anybody that knows the Israeli culture, the Haredi culture, at age 28, it's like a 40-year-old. You're not married by 28, it's crazy. Most of them are married by 18, 19. So finally he found the shidduch and they got engaged. The kala, they're supposed to be getting married in a few weeks. she was speaking to somebody, and that person that was at her parents' house, they wished, Mazal Tov, I heard you were engaged. Who are you engaged to? Oh, you're engaged to this person. Oh, that's the Khatan. All right, no. An expression of like, for this person, you've been waiting that long. A line like that, considered it to be an innocent line. The Kala heard it, and it hit. Like, all of a sudden, she lost her sense of excitement. And from one thing to the next thing, one misstep led to the other, broken engagement. This man was so heartbroken that he was never able to recover from it. He started getting into alcohol, and he started going crazy. He couldn't believe that he lost the shidduch so quickly to getting married. He lost the shidduch. All of it, damo, v'dam zaro, v'dam zera zaro, is on the shoulders of that person with that one comment of, no, he's not that special, that you should wait so long for him. That one comment destroyed so much. So the poison of Lashon Hara can be so devastating. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends the snakes, and the snake is actually a very good, another midah keneged midah, because the snake, nahash afar lachmo. What does the snake eat? He eats the dust of the ground, and it doesn't complain. That's what it eats, and that's what it has. Am Yisrael, on the other hand, is given bread by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The man is lechem haberim, is the bread of the angels. And you're complaining? The nachash, look at the nachash, what he's eating, he's not complaining. And you're complaining? Same thing is true for the 21st century, especially the young ones here. You should know a lot of times, parents, they make food. They made spaghetti, who knows, they made whatever, meatballs, and we have to have this again. How many people live in third world countries? They barely have bread to put on the table. They barely have what to eat. They're eating dirt. They're eating dust, like the snake. Person has to know and has to appreciate. Here is the bread of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the manna of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Am Yisrael complains, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu did it for their benefit. They don't have to go to the restroom. They can spend their whole time in Torah. It's nivla be'evarehem. It gives them strength. It was medicinal. So many benefits to the man. But the nation sees the negative and says, no, we don't want this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends the snakes. Am Yisrael is dying. Moshe Rabbeinu is given a command to establish a staff and to put on it a copper snake, and anybody that was bitten should look and gaze at the copper snake and will be healed. That's, the Torah tells us, from here we see the seriousness of the power of our speech. I'll tell you a story that happened recently. This happened in Eretz Yisrael. There's a fellow that was speaking to his friend. And all of a sudden, in the middle of their talking, the cell phone rings. Oh, they're good friends. He says, you don't have to be embarrassed. You can answer it. It's fine. I don't care. You can answer the phone. He tells him, listen, it's not a phone call. It's an alarm. He looks at his watch. He says, it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. What alarm? Who sets an alarm for 5 o'clock in the afternoon? What, are you going to sleep now? He's like, no. It's an alarm that reminds me that the clock starts for when I took the Kabbalah on myself. I accepted upon myself to not speak Lashon Hara for 3 hours. And this is when the clock starts. Every day I get this alarm. From 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the afternoon, evening, I don't speak Lashon Hara. He says, Opa, wow, amazing. Chazak u'baruch to not speak Lashon Hara. But as far as I remember, the Hafetz Chaim, when he wrote Sefer Shmirat HaLashon, he didn't put a sunset provision in there and say, for only 3 hours of the day there's a prohibition, the rest of the day it's mutar, mitzvah taseh she'azman kama. Where does it say that? It's all the day. Why only 3 hours? So he says, listen, I'll tell you why I took upon myself 3 hours, but before I tell you, you have to hear the story that happened to my close relative, and you'll understand on your own. He tells him as follows, I have a relative that's far from Torah and mitzvot. Doesn't keep not Torah, not mitzvot, not Shabbat, not even basics. Knows very little. One time I convinced him he should go to Shiur Torah. I said, listen, you don't have what to lose. You're not really doing much anyway. Just go. Hear it once. You should hear from a rabbi what it is that Am Yisrael is. Okay, he went to the shiur, the Rav was speaking, and the Rav was talking at length about, the crowd was people that were far away, people that weren't really keeping, and the Rav was saying that it's difficult for a person who wasn't trained, not used to, wasn't taught, to start taking upon himself so much at once. Says to them, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to see progress. Just take something small, something that you're able to handle. And he gave us an example. He said, let's take Shabbat. If you can't keep all of Shabbat, it's 25 hours, it's daunting for a person that's not religious. 25 hours, no cell phone, no technology, no driving, no anything, no turning on lights. It's too much. He says, okay, take something that you're easily able to handle to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I care. I'm doing something. I'm advancing myself to get closer to you. And then a person already is in a different category. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shakol niyah v'dvor. So, I heard this, and I was very inspired. And I was thinking to myself, I can't keep the whole Shabbat, but I'll keep part of the Shabbat. I'll keep the easy part of the Shabbat. He said, from 11 o'clock at night, Friday night, until 10 o'clock in the morning, I think I could keep Shabbat. This is a time where people go to sleep. You don't have to work hard. It's a weekend. You wake up late anyway. I think I could handle that. He said, I'll take upon myself to keep Shabbat 11 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock in the morning. Every Shabbat. Sure enough, the first week was not so easy. The Yetzer Hara got him to stay up a little bit later. And it's already 11:30 and he's like, oh my gosh, I want to check the messages. I want to go ahead and turn on the television. So I'm keeping the Shabbat. It was hard, but slowly but surely he trained himself. Anything that he wanted to do, he made sure to arrange a schedule either before 11 or after 10 o'clock in the morning. And that's how he would go about. And it was relatively doable for him. All it required is to make sure that he's prepared ahead of time. One time he went out with a few friends, Friday night. And they were out in a faraway place from where they lived. They need to get back. As they're getting into the car, he looks at his watch and he sees 10:45. 15 minutes until 11. And he knows that the distance from where he is until the city, even if they leave right then, no way he's making it. It's a 45-minute drive. He already told his friends ahead of time. He said, 11, I'm home. You have to bring me back home before 11. But he sees there's no way we're getting back, and they lost track of time. They're in the car. He tells his friends, Rabotai, in 5 minutes I'm pulling over, and I'm leaving. They said, what are you talking about? I told you 11. It's already almost 11. I keep Shabbat at 11. I'm not going together with you. They said, what do you mean? You're going to just stop here in the middle? You're in a city. You're not anywhere near your house? He's like, yeah, I'm just going to pull over. I'm going to put my stuff down. I'm going to find a bench. I'm going to sleep there. So what do you mean? You're like a homeless? What are you, homeless? They started laughing at him. He said, listen, I mean it. I'm serious about it. 5 minutes, I'm out of the car. They said, Tov. You told us, we know. Bemet, 5 minutes later, this is already a few minutes before 11, tells the driver, pull over, I'm getting out of the car. He gets out of the car, gets his stuff ready, turns off his cell phone, puts all the muktzeh to the side, stashes it away, finds himself a bench, goes to sleep. Echshu, he makes it from 11 p.m. to 10 o'clock in the morning without being mechaleh Shabbat. The minute 10 o'clock hits, pulls out his cell phone, turns it back on, calls a taxi driver, Yalla, take me home. He gets home and he sees there's a commotion. It looks like there's a party going on. All his family, all his friends, what's going on over here? What are you guys throwing a party? What is this, a surprise party? They said, no, what are you doing? Oh, they look shocked. He said, what's happening? You're alive. What do you mean I'm alive? What, did you plan anything for me to be dead? Why shouldn't I be alive? They said to him, no, you don't understand. We got news. The car where all your friends were had a serious accident, fatal, no survivors. And they told us that you were in the car. We thought you were dead. Rahmana litzlan. He's like, what? You were in the car? He's like, I was in the car. So what made you get out of the car? He's like, Shabbat. It was going to be Shabbat. I took upon myself, 11 o'clock at night, I left the car. What happened is they continued driving, and the car, I don't know, went off a cliff or something, and they all died. He was the only one that survived. And it hit him. B'zchut the Shabbat, HaKadosh Baruch Hu saved my life. I wasn't even keeping Shabbat entirely, but I made a step in the right direction. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu already saved me. The minute that happened, I shouldn't say the minute, Motzei Shabbat, right? He picks up the phone, he calls me, this is a person saying over this story. He calls me and he tells me, sign me up for Arachim seminar. I want to know more about this. This is Torah. Hashem saved my life for Shabbat. I want to become religious. He tells his friend the story. He says, after hearing a story like that happened to my own relative, I took it upon myself and I said, if he can keep Shabbat for a partial time, then you know what? I could keep Lashon Hara for 3 hours. If I take it upon myself 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's very hard. But if I do 3 hours, then I'm able to say to myself, no, now it's the 3 hours. I wanted to say something. I'm not going to say now. I'll wait until after. By the time after comes, he's going to be saying, I don't really need to say it. It's not that big of a deal. It wasn't so burning a desire. It's okay. We could live without it. And that's how he would go about and do the mitzvot. So this teaches us a very powerful lesson. I said this a few weeks ago when we did Parashat Shelach. We talked about how Kalev ben Yefuneh caused Am Yisrael to hesitate before they pounced on Moshe Rabbeinu and on Lashon Hara and Eretz Yisrael. He caused them to stop for a second and to reorient themselves. And then they went and criticized. And then they went and they cried. So what did Kalev ben Yefuneh accomplish? He accomplished a hesitation. He accomplished stalling Am Yisrael. That moment, that ability to extend and to say, I'll get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as much as I can. I'll take a little step towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu, goes a long way and has a lot of siyata dishmaya. That's number one that we see very clearly from the parasha. Another thing we see, and this goes to really the entirety of Parashat Chukat, if you think about it, it's a big, massive fast forward. Right? Because Ami says in the desert for 40 years, Parashat Korach, according to the Ramban, is right after the sending of the Meraglim. So this is happening in this time of the year, actually, around the time of the summer, of the second year. So it's a year and a half into Am Yisrael leaving Mitzrayim. That's when the whole parasha of Shelach, Korach, that's the first year and the beginning of the second year. Parashat Chukat, boom, all of a sudden, in the middle of the parasha, we're fast forwarded, like almost seamlessly, to year 40. And now the events that are taking place, the death of Aaron, the death of Miriam, Meriva, all of these events taking place, 40th year. And we have to stop and think about this, an observation that Rav Broida makes. Incredible observation. The pasuk says, "Vayinasu oti ze aseret pe'amim." Am Yisrael tested HaKadosh Baruch Hu 10 times in the desert. What were the 10 tests? So Gemara says, "Shenayim alayam," 2 by Kiryat Yam Suf. What are the 2? First, before they enter Kiryat Yam Suf, they say, "No, why did we come down here? We should have stayed in Egypt. They're going to kill us. We're not going to survive." That was one. The second one was when they exited Yam Suf. They said, just like we're exiting, Mitzrayim will also exit. We also had an exit, they will have an exit. Vayamru et pi Hashem. The pasuk says that's twice. HaKadosh Baruch Hu had to spit out the Egyptians so that everybody will see that they're dead. And then there were 2 times with water. Shnaim al hamayim. Shnaim al hayam, shnaim al hamayim. That was when Am Yisrael asked Moshe Rabbeinu, both in Mara and in Refidim, for water. They complained that they don't have water to drink. Those were two other times Am Yisrael complained to Moshe Rabbeinu and to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then two more times with the man. What happened with the man? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Am Yisrael, don't leave over the man. And of course, Vayotiru anashim imenu ad boker. People left over from the man. Moshe Rabbeinu told Am Yisrael, don't go collecting on Shabbat. There's not going to be any man on Shabbat. People went out and collected on Shabbat. And they saw that there was nothing to collect. They were tested and they didn't pass. That's 5 and 6. The Selav, 7 and 8, when it came to asking for meat, again, twice, in two different Sfarim, Sefer Shemot, Sefer Bamidbar, Am Yisrael complained that they wanted to have meat, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu provided them with the Selav. That was up to test 8. Test 9 is Cheta Egel, when Am Yisrael famously sinned with the golden calf, and the last test was the Meraglim, Midbar Paran. All of those Am Yisrael did not pass. They failed all of those 10 tests. Now, Rabotai, I want you to think. Every single one of those tests, every single one of them, was in the first year and a half. The other 38 and a half years, you hear nothing. No comment. Torah doesn't say a word about Am Yisrael failing any tests. Presumably, Pshat is what? Because they kept everything. If you don't criticize somebody, right, how do you know something's going well? When you hear a complaint. If nobody's complaining, things are going well. So the Torah didn't say anything. That's because Am Yisrael kept things for 38 years. Now we come to year 40, and here we're back again. Memeriva, we have the whole story of Binot Midian happening in the 40th year. We have these complaints of the man, Alechem HaKelokel, the Nehash HaNechoshet. What's going on? First year and a half, 10 tests, 10 failures, nothing. Last year, all of a sudden again, failures. What about the whole middle? There was nothing wrong in the middle? So Rav Broida says an incredible thing. He says, what's the pshat in this? This is a lesson in humanity. A person has to understand this about himself and about the people around him. But a lot of times, transitioning is the hardest thing. The first year was a year that was a transitional year. Am Yisrael was in Mitzrayim 210 years. All of a sudden, they're out, Moshe Rabbeinu, leadership, things are moving parts. And Am Yisrael is thrown off balance. When a person is not in that tranquility of consistency, when things are not exactly the way he's used to and predictability, it becomes very challenging for the person and very difficult for the person to be successful. Therefore, the first year and a half, a lot of setbacks, a lot of failures. The last year is also same story, because this was sort of like a landing. If you look at it like taking off, that was the first year. Now they're landing, same story. Am Yisrael is about to go into Eretz Yisrael. It's a change of mindset. There are wars on the horizon. Am Yisrael has to be prepared. They have to be ready. Things are moving. Things are going on. And again, challenges, tests, and failures. The whole middle time, all that 38 years in the middle, where things were going day in, day out, clocking in, clocking out, everything was going consistently and smoothly. And what we have to know, a lot of people now, it's relevant in many ways, but just as one example, people are coming back from Eretz HaKodesh, from Eretz Yisrael. It's a big transition after being in yeshiva for a whole year, and now you're returning. Or if you're coming back as a bi'awah from Miami or other holy places that everybody's coming from, it's a transition. Or if you're just finishing school and you're now in the summer, it's a big transition. And the only remedy to make sure that we don't fall into obstacles is to prepare ourselves mentally. This says the pasuk, "Hanefilim hayu ba'aretz." The Nephilim were angels. Parashat Bereshit. Angels. And they failed. When they came down to this world, they became worse than even people that were doing terrible crimes. How do you go from being an angel, me'igra rama lebira amikta, all the way from such heights such closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, singing the psalms of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, praising HaKadosh Baruch Hu, doing as the angels are in spiritual levels that we can't even begin to imagine. They come to this world, and in a moment's time, they totally get corrupted and corrupt everybody else with them. How does that happen? The drop. They weren't ready. They weren't equipped. They weren't prepared. They didn't prepare themselves enough. They didn't realize what they were getting themselves into. That transition threw them off to the point that they were no longer, not just not angels, they became corrupt and the worst of the worst. And this is what we have to realize about ourselves. That's just the humanity of a person. A person has a day. He goes to work 9 to 5. He comes back home. It's a transition. He's to be ready for it. In work, it was good. He had his employers, employees, everybody sitting together, everybody's talking, office job, whatever he's doing, they're having a good time. Now all of a sudden he comes home, kids running around, house is a mess, wife's upset. It's a transition. Whoa, he wasn't ready for that. He wasn't expecting that. You got to come in with the right mentality. You got to be prepared. You start, you're taking off, you're landing. All of those times require a person to be alert and ready for the challenges of the unknown, really. And Am Yisrael was not fully prepared, and this is why they didn't pass those tests as effectively as they could have done that. One final, a few more points I want to make mention of, and this one has to do really with the beginning of the parasha. This is Parashat Chukat, the parasha of Para Aduma. That's why it's called Parashat Chukat. So Torah goes through the whole laws of Para Aduma. Of course, very unique. The Gemara says that there were only 10 Parot Adumot in the entire history, actually 9, and the last one is going to be in Yemot HaMashiach. But obviously a very big deal. It's a famous Midrash, Psikta de Rav Kahana. Midrash says that there was a Jew that owned a cow, a regular cow. And he sold the cow to a goy. Why did he sell the cow? Financial difficulties, a recession. He had to sell. The goy bought the cow. Cow was doing great. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, everything was going well. Shabbat comes along and the cow decides it's not working. Whatever the goy tries to do, hits it, talks to it, everything, doesn't work. Cow's not working. First thing he does, he goes back to the Jew. You sold me a flawed, blemished cow. What's blemished? It's perfect. It does everything I asked it to. No, it doesn't want to work on Shabbat. Look for yourself. The Jew sees that it's bemet. It's not moving. It's supposed to move. It's supposed to plow. It's supposed to do things. It's not moving. He gets it right away. He says, Vadai, it's because it keeps Shabbat. In my house, he used to keep Shabbat. Now I keep Shabbat. He goes to the ear of the cow and he starts whispering, when you were in my possession, I had to keep Shabbat. You had to keep Shabbat. Even the animals of a person that's Jewish has to keep Shabbat. The Jew has a responsibility to protect the animals from not being Mechalei Shabbat. Certain things are allowed, like the animals allowed to eat from the ground, things that are relevant to it, but work that pertain to the person, like I said, plowing, threshing, those kinds of activities, you have to stop the animal, even if it's not physically in your property. Even if you're renting it out to a goy, can't do work on Shabbat. So the Jew was very makpid. He didn't allow his cow to do work, and it got used to not doing work. So now he's talking to the cow. He says, now I had to sell you to the goy. Unfortunately, I lost a lot of my finances. I had to sell you. And now here's a goy. The goy doesn't have to keep Shabbat. Not only does he not have to, it's also for him to keep Shabbat. You also can work now. You should start working. And the cow got up and started working on Shabbat. Now the goy, he doesn't know what's going on. Was he whispering in his ear? It sounds to him like witchcraft. He says, I am not accepting any of this. First of all, who says this is going to continue next week? What, every week I have to call you here? And second of all, who says what you whispered? You could have done witchcraft. I don't know. This is dangerous. I don't agree. You have to tell me what you said. There's no problem. I'll tell you. I told the cow that when it was in my possession, it had to keep Shabbat. And it would keep Shabbat. We're Jewish. You don't keep Shabbat. It doesn't have to. It started working. So this goy, to his credit, he says, Ma, the cow keep Shabbat, a cow that has no responsibility to know its creator, is conscious of Shabbat, and I, a goy, who have a responsibility to know my creator, am going to go and just haphazardly do whatever I want. I also want to keep Shabbat. If an animal keeps Shabbat, I want to keep Shabbat. Says the Gemara, the Midrash says, he converted, he became part of Am Yisrael, and he started keeping Shabbat, of course, and all the Torah and the mitzvot, and his name was changed to Rabbi Yohanan ben Tota. What's Tota? That's the son of the ox, essentially, son of the cow. Torah. Why? Because the cow is what was machzir oto b'tshuva. So Gemara in the Pesikta over there asks a question. He says, how is it yitachen that a cow should make a person chozer b'tshuva? How is that even possible that the cow is able to do that? And the Pesikta answers, yes, because Am Yisrael also is purified through a cow, the Para Aduma. So since Am Yisrael is purified through Para Aduma, the cow has the koach to convert. Now, Rabotai, that is the words of the Pesikta, but if you think about it, it sounds, wow. First of all, what is Para Aduma? Was this cow Para Aduma? This is a regular cow. There's millions of cows out there. Even after the global warming's trying to kill them all, miskini and poor cows. But there's millions of cows out there. And one Para Aduma. What does one have to do? There's Para Aduma purifies Am Yisrael, so cows are able to be machzir b'tshuva. What does one have to do with the other? Is the pshat is, in the spiritual world, everything is connected. If one cow has such power that it's able to be mitaher Am Yisrael, guess what? That gives koach to all the cows to have a special segura to be able to change a person's mentality. If that's true for animals, koshikin. For people, a person, a lot of times you don't realize what happens in the world, the religiosity, and the entire makeup of non-Jews and Jews can hinge upon the actions that we have in this room. When we rise to high levels of spirituality, it affects and permeates and breaks through all layers of the society and demands of them more. And their capabilities rise as well. They said, the Gaon Mivina, they said, why is it that when we wear tefillin, they asked this to the Gaon, we wear tefillin, no goy is afraid. And the Gemara says, Zeru tefillin sheberosh. When a goy sees the tefillin, he's supposed to be afraid. But we wear, they're not afraid. You go, Mivina, you go out with your tefillin, everybody's afraid of you. How is it that you are different than us? It says tefillin sheberosho, he answered them. It doesn't say tefillin she'al rosho. Not the tefillin that's on his head, the tefillin that's in his head. If the tefillin is constantly in your head, v'yare'u mimeka, that permeates. Your yirat shamayim towards HaKadosh Baruch Hu permeates the entirety of the world. And when we don't have yirat shamayim, that also affects the world. That's the lesson of Shach would say. Shach would say that the reason why non-religious people come to Beit HaKnesset once a year on Yom HaKippurim, you ask yourself, why do they come? They're not religious. Mima nafshach. Is it less than Shabbat? Shabbat is also important. So why don't they come on Shabbat? They don't come on Shabbat because it's not important to them. Why are you coming on Yom Kippur? It's a contradiction. He says the pshat why they come on Yom Kippur is because it's serious in our eyes. Because it's Yom Kippur is more serious in our eyes. We look at it, we have ematadin, we're scared, we're fasting. It permeates all the levels, and therefore even the non-religious people, they feel a connection and a devotion to connect to and come toward this. So this para, which was affected by the Jew who was careful about Shabbat, the cow became careful, and that cow was able to be machzir b'tshuva. One of the things that is mentioned in this week's parasha is the passing of Aaron. If you ever get a trivia question, who is the only person that his yortzeit is actually written in the Torah? It's Aaron. It says that he was passed away on Rosh Chodesh Av, which is actually coming up. Not so far away. So, the Gemara tells us that Aaron was mourned by all of Am Yisrael when he was taken out and they did the levaya eulogizing and accompanying him to burial. He got buried in Hor Hahar. It says that there were 80,000 Aharon's children that were following him. Why were there 80,000 Aharons following him? For every single shidduch he saved. Evidently, they had big shalom bayit issues in the midbar. Sort of makes sense if you think about it. You know, when COVID happened, it ruined a lot of people. The people were stuck at home, and it was tough because you had wives, husbands seeing each other all day. Nobody was allowed to go out. Nobody was allowed to work. There was a lot of people. It was very unfortunate. There's a lot of men that had developing mental issues, bimit. And Shalom Bayit was ruined to a lot of families. If they don't know how to handle and you're not really in the proper mindset, the Torah mindset, it can have a very damaging effect. So Am Yisrael, it was a lot of closeness, and evidently there were 80,000 couples that needed help with Shalom Bayit over the course of 40 years. And one was there that saved them from divorce. Mamash, they were on verges of divorce. One would come in, Oev Shalom ve'Rodev Shalom, he would speak with the husband, he would speak with the wife, convince them, it's kedai to continue the marriage, continue, and they would stay married, they would be together, have a child, and they would name the child Aharon. Why? It's because of him that we have this child. If it wasn't for him, this child wouldn't be in the world. 80,000 Aharons were in the world because of Aharon. And they all accompanied him. Now, Rabotai, if you think about it, just for a moment, right? So Aaron was exactly, do the math, right? Okay, so you're talking 40 years, and how many days? You have 365 days in the year. You're talking about what? Who's doing the math over here? I think around 15,000 days, be'erich. Yeah, something like that. So 80,000. That means that he was doing five a day, pretty much. 5 Shalom Bayits a day. Now, you think about that. You ask people that work in these things, right? How do you, a couple that's on the verge of divorce, it means that their problems are very underlying. They're very serious. It takes a few weeks sometimes. Usually, if it's done right, it takes a few weeks talking to him, talking to her, seeing progress. It's not something that you do in the matter of minutes. Now, Aaron was doing saving marriages 5 a day, it comes out. There's a lot of hours in the day. That's aside from his job, that he was Kohen Gadol. And he also has a family with children and everything. Like, how does Aaron manage to do so much? It's like a packed day to be able to accomplish and to be able to take care of all that. So Rabotai, this is a very important concept in Torah and in mitzvot. And I think that we have to internalize this idea. Aharon, if you ask a question, what is the busiest day of the year? For any person, busiest day of the year is always tomorrow. Why tomorrow? His wife comes to him and says, you know, the lights, they need to be fixed. Can you fix the lights? No problem. I'll do it tomorrow. First thing. She says to him, the Rav calls him up. He says, Kavodo, we haven't seen you in the shiur. Why aren't you coming to the shiur? He says, you're right, Kavod Rav. I really been meaning to come. He said, no problem. Tomorrow I'm going to come. Everything, I got to go ahead and take care of the DMV, all the feet. Tomorrow we'll take care of the DMV. Tomorrow is always the busiest day of the year. As everything is for tomorrow, procrastination. Aaron was the opposite. A person has to take a lesson. Aaron said, if there's something that needs to be addressed, address it. That's it. Right now. What's the difference? Why not come in? I address it tomorrow. Anyway, I have to address it. Address it immediately. If it's in school, a lot of times you get an assignment, right? You have 3 weeks to do this. I'll wait for 3 weeks. I'll wait for the deadline. Procrastination is not a good tendency. Aaron HaKohen, what made him special, what made him able to accomplish so much, why should I wait? What am I waiting for? What's the difference in tomorrow? I might not come in at tomorrow today. Take care of it. I have an opportunity right now. Let's do it right now. Mitzvah ba leyadecha al tahmitzena. Because it says that Am Yisrael was at Har Sinai, Kadosh Baruch Hu kafa lehem har kigigit. He took the mountain and he put it on top of them like a barrel. And he threatened Am Yisrael, if you accept the Torah, mutav, it's good. And if not, what does the pasuk say? Sham teh kevuratchem. Right? We say Nes Gadol haya po, Nes Gadol haya sham. In Eretz Yisrael, Nes Gadol by Hanukkah. A great miracle happened here. And in America, Nes Gadol haya sham. Sham means there. Po means here. So what should have Hashem said? Po tehek kivuratchem. You're holding the mountain on top of Am Yisrael. You're saying if you don't accept the Torah, you will be buried there, here. Po. Why does the Midrash say? Look it up in the Shabbat. Sham tehek kivuratchem. Says the pshat is a person who's a ben Torah. He understands now. Hayom la'asotam. Today is the day to do it. You have a mitzvah, you have an opportunity, whether it's chesed, this person needs you to help him with his homework, or that person, he needs you to give him advice and you want to meet with him. Don't procrastinate. Procrastination, sham teh kivuratchem. Procrastination is not the mentality of a ben Torah. You accept the Torah, it's now. You don't, sham. The sham will bury you. That's what doesn't allow you to accomplish, doesn't allow you to succeed, because by the time the sham comes, a lot slips in between the cracks and so much can be lost. The great Rabbanim was once asked to speak, and it was a very important speech, and he had to prepare it ahead of time. So he was in his home, and he knew he had a flight. That was a 10-hour flight from New York to Eretz Yisrael. He said, why should I prepare it at home? Anyway, in the flight, I'm going to have plenty of time to prepare. I don't need to prepare now. I'll save it for the flight and I'll do the preparations. He didn't prepare at home. He waited for the flight, bemet. And the flight, somebody sat next to him was a little bit of a nudnik. Every 5 minutes, he had to have a conversation. Every conversation he started was another 2 hours of him having to listen to him to say his whole life story. He wanted to try to prepare. The whole time was occupied with this fellow. Wasn't able to prepare. He realized he doesn't have a shiur to give. They asked him to speak 45 minutes. He doesn't know what to say. He gets up there. He says, Morai v'Rabotai, I just can be honest. He says, I don't have prepared. I didn't prepare. I procrastinated. And because I procrastinated, I don't have what to tell you. I'm going to tell you stories, chili-bili. I'm going to make up some stuff. I'm going to tell you. I wanted to tell you things of value. I don't have what to tell you. The lesson I want everybody to learn is look how important, look how valuable it is when a person doesn't procrastinate. When he prepares, I could have done it already from the beginning, and I would have had a whole shiur, and I would have had what to give over. But so much was lost because I decided to wait, and I decided to do it in the last minute because that made more sense. And then sham, that's the sham. The sham, that's when I'll do it. Aaron HaKohen accomplished so much in his life. He was able to do so much for Am Yisrael because his mentality was now, let's go, let's do it, let's take care of whatever needs to be done. He took care of whatever wasn't able to physically be done at that time. And achanami, if you could do it, if it's the opportunity finds itself, then grab it and do. Whether it's learning, whether it's things that need to get done at home, whether it's things that you need to do in cheshbon nefesh, whether it's gemarot that you've always wanted to learn. I've always wanted to learn, but I'll save it for when I get to this level of work, when the bank account has enough zeros, I'll be able to do it. Sham teh kivuratchem, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The time to do is now and not to procrastinate. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen ve'amen. Rabbi Hanina b'Kasha omer, עשה הקדוש ברוך הוא, זה הכל ספר המצוות שנאמר, אדוני חפץ למען צדקו יגדיל תורה וידיר.